There's no money left in this house, right? We don't need to deal with them anymore, do we? That's true. We don't need parents anymore. What? It means cutting ties with you. There's no point in trying to please a penniless mother-in-law. You try to mooch off us just because you're broke, and even though you don't have a penny, you say we should take care of you. It's a hassle, so I want to cut ties now. I understand your thoughts. So, the inheritance for you is that $30,000, and that's the severance money for cutting parent-child ties, right? Yeah, that's fine. After the husband passed away, the eldest son and his wife showed their true nature. They vented their frustration about the failed plans by confronting me with a declaration of estrangement. $30,000 is a lot of money. But they will regret having received that $30,000. 2 years after my husband passed away, I was sitting on a park bench eating bread. The peaceful moment was abruptly interrupted by a familiar voice. Isn't that Mother? Huh? It's true. Look. She's making a tired face, feeding pigeons in the park. No, I'm not feeding the pigeons. That's true. We took all the money, so of course, you'd become homeless. How's the homeless life? Anger had long passed, and I was already too dumbfounded to say anything. I sighed quietly and resumed my lunch. Mom, why are you ignoring me? Oh, we've cut ties, so maybe it's bad to call you Mom now. How about we call you Homeless Granny then? That's a good one. Homeless Granny. The eldest son and his wife, seeing that I remained silent, said whatever they wanted. After I finished eating my bread, I decided to tell them the truth. You keep saying homeless, homeless, but who are you talking about? You, Homeless Granny. I'm not homeless. I live over there now. What? I pointed to a building and explained the truth to the eldest son and his wife. Huh? Surprised by the truth, the son and his wife regretted it too late. I am Diane. I am a 60-year-old homemaker. My husband, Richard, is 67 years old and still working. About 20 years ago, he quit the company he was working for and founded an IT company. The company has been growing steadily, especially since it began handling a new sector about 10 years ago, leading to rapid growth. Now, it's quite a large scale. I, being just a homemaker, am clueless about it, but my husband talks about data science and big data. Due to his age, he is already retired as president, though he continues to work as the chairman. However, he thinks it's about time to step down from that role as well. We have a son, Sean. When my husband retired as president, Sean did not take over the company. Instead, he did not even help with my husband's company. I don't want to be seen as just living off my dad, so I'll make it on my own. After graduating from college, Sean said that and joined a company unrelated to IT, and left home. I had hoped Sean would take over my husband's company, so I was a bit disappointed then. However, as a doting parent, I felt a bit proud of him for choosing not to rely on his powerful parents, and I smiled when I heard about it. I won't force you, so do what you like. My husband seemed to feel the same, and while he looked a bit disappointed, he encouraged Sean. That was fine until Sean, after getting a job, rarely contacted us and only came home around Christmas. Lately, he just calls during Christmas and doesn't come home at all. Well, it's not unusual for men, and as long as he's doing well, that's fine. I try to tell myself that, but I still wish he would contact us more. One day, while I was still far from Christmas, Sean called. It's unusual for you to contact me outside of the year-end. I have something to report. I'll be coming home soon. Report what? I'm getting married, so it's about the greeting. Really? I was just happy that Sean had contacted me, and then I heard the unexpected news of his marriage, and I exclaimed loudly. My husband, who was leisurely watching TV, jerked and turned towards me. I returned his look with a beaming smile. He didn't know about Sean's marriage yet, and a question mark hovered over his head. Sean would bring his fiancée home in a month. Sean will be bringing his bride home soon. It's still 3 weeks away. 3 weeks will fly by. Since Sean called, I keep telling my husband that Sean will be coming home soon to report his marriage. My husband looks fed up, but I keep saying it unabashedly. I can't help but look forward to it. However, this report of marriage would bring me anxiety. A month later, Sean and his fiancée came home. I'm home. I'm back. Welcome. Come in. Dad is waiting in the living room. Excuse us. His fiancée, Mandy, looked young, more like an idol than a model with a cute face. She seemed nervous, glancing around at the entrance. As I led them to the living room where my husband was waiting, she kept looking around. Welcome. Have a seat. As they entered the living room, my husband seated Sean and his fiancée across from him. I sat next to my husband. The fiancée was still looking around. It was embarrassing to have our home looked at so closely, so I spoke up. Is there something you're curious about? No. It's just, it was different from what I imagined. Hey, don't say such embarrassing things right away. The fiancé's words and Sean's hasty follow-up were funny, and my husband and I looked at each other and laughed. Was the house more ordinary than you thought? No, that's not it. Don't worry about it. We aren't very materialistic. So even though my husband runs a big company, our house is average size, and we don't deck ourselves out in designer brands or eat extravagant meals every day. I see. I'm sorry for saying something strange all of a sudden. That's why I told you there's no need to be nervous, right? You see now that Dad isn't a very imposing person. It seems the eldest son couldn't help but laugh as well. The fiancé seemed to relax after seeing him laugh, and the conversation flowed smoothly from there. The fiancée might look young, but she's actually 27 years old and quite mature when you talk to her. I had been worried about my son not marrying even after turning 30, but I'm relieved he has found someone nice. 3 months later, my son got married. It was a happy occasion by itself, but it also had an unexpected side effect. Hello, Mom. Everything okay over there? Yes, no problems here. Dad and you are getting on in years, so take care of your health. Sean, every time you call, that's all you talk about. Since getting married, my son started calling once a month. Probably his wife found out he hadn't been contacting us at all before and told him to keep in touch regularly. My son, not used to calling us, seems unsure about what to talk about and always ends up asking about our health. I wish he would talk more about his work or his married life, but I always listen to him with a smile. During the first Christmas after my son's marriage, he and his wife visited us. I put extra effort into making homemade Christmas dishes to serve them. However, the daughter-in-law seemed a bit displeased. Mandy, is there something you can't eat? No, that's not it. I'll eat, thank you. She replied with a smile, but I didn't miss the brief cloud over her expression when she looked at the food, and she didn't eat much of it. Maybe there was something she couldn't eat? I worried that I had made the daughter-in-law uncomfortable, and kept glancing at her, making me the only one not talking much while my husband and the young couple were having a lively conversation. Finally, as it was time for my son and his wife to leave, my husband and the daughter-in-law were talking at the entrance, and my son whispered to me so that the others couldn't hear. Mom, homemade Christmas dishes are outdated. That's not true, right? There's no old or new in homemade dishes, right? That's an old-fashioned idea. The dishes you made prioritize preservation, right? Nowadays, Christmas dishes are eaten quickly and are made with more luxurious ingredients. I bet Mandy was disappointed, right? Is that so? I guess I didn't adapt to the tastes of young people today. I'm sorry. While times may change, I think there's no need to apologize for making Christmas dishes. However, overly concerned about the impression I made on my daughter-in-law, I ended up apologizing to my son in a whisper. After the small Christmas dish incident, the once monthly calls became once every 2 months, then every 3 months. I felt down, thinking I had upset the daughter-in-law with the Christmas dishes. Seeing me like this, my husband reassured me kindly. There's no way she'd get upset over something like Christmas dishes, right? She must be busy with work. Or maybe trying to keep up monthly calls was too hard? It was a high hurdle, considering he hardly ever contacted us before. Even if it's once every 3 months, it's good that he contacts us at all. His words cheered me up a bit. However, I couldn't fully recover, and a nagging negative feeling remained in my heart. It seemed like this negative feeling in my heart had the power to attract bad things. Half a year later, my husband fell ill. This means I definitely can't work anymore. It's a good chance for me to retire. Lying in the hospital bed, my husband was happy he no longer had to work. But after 30 years of marriage, I could tell. He was frustrated that he had to retire suddenly due to illness, not by his own choice. His laughter, trying not to worry me, stung my heart. Naturally, I had informed my son that his father had collapsed. Huh? Dad collapsed? I'll come to see him sometime. My son's response over the phone was indifferent. My husband's condition worsened gradually, and yet my son and his wife never visited him in the hospital. Eventually, even the once every 3 months calls stopped, and after my husband collapsed, they no longer came home even for the Christmas. As time passed, 3 years later, my husband passed away. So, Dad finally did. Well, he was over 70 and had made his company successful, so he probably was satisfied with his life, right? Even when I told my son over the phone that his father had passed away, his reaction was indifferent. Although he showed up at the funeral, he didn't help out, and as soon as the formalities were over, he and his wife hurried back. Remembering them laughing as they got into the car, the sadness of my husband's absence was blown away, and I felt anger. However, this anger was fleeting, and soon I was overwhelmed by sadness. There were many things to take care of, like paperwork and cleaning up, but things didn't proceed as I hoped. About a month after my husband passed away, I finally started feeling a bit better. It seems that time heals most things. However, just as I was regaining my strength, a problem occurred that seemed to drain my energy. One morning, while I was doing laundry, the doorbell rang. "Mom, open up." When I checked the monitor on the intercom, my son and his wife were standing there. Despite it not being Christmas or any special occasion, I felt puzzled by their sudden visit but headed to the front door. "Dad's workroom is this way." "Wait a minute." As I opened the door, my son and his wife rushed into the house without greeting and headed straight for the room my husband had used for work. Left behind in the entrance for a moment, I hurried after them. "Where is it?" "I think it's in one of these drawers around here." The door to my husband's workroom was left open, and I could hear my son and his wife's conversation and the sound of them rummaging through drawers. "Hey, what are you doing?" They stopped opening drawers and turned to face me. I had an inkling of what was happening, but I was praying it wasn't true. "It's about time to talk about the inheritance, right? That's why we came to get what we're due." He was the president and chairman of a big company and didn't seem to spend much money, so there must be a lot of money, right? Apparently, my prayers went unanswered. After throwing a few words at me, my son and his wife started rummaging through the drawers again. Seeing them act like thieves, I lost the will to stop them. "Found it." "Isn't this it?" "Ooh. Did you find it? What's inside?" Breathing heavily, my son and his wife flipped through my husband's bank book. However, their expressions darkened when they saw the balance. "What's this? There's hardly any money in here." Damn. I guess there wasn't as much money as I thought. It was clear that my son and his wife had come to the house with my husband's money in mind. However, I couldn't understand their conversation, and my thoughts eventually stopped, leaving me standing there, staring blankly. "Mom. You've had an easy life until now, but in the end, you ended up in a terrible situation, huh? I snapped back to reality at the sound of my eldest son's voice. As my awareness sharpened, I saw my son and his wife looking at me with a malicious grin. Still unable to grasp the situation, I steeled myself for ridicule and asked my son, "What do you mean by a terrible situation? You don't have to play dumb. We know. Your father-in-law fell around the time his company was absorbed by another, right? So, it means his company was operating at a loss and got taken under another company's wing, right? Huh? What are you guys talking about? A person holding a company on the verge of bankruptcy wouldn't have any money. But since he was the head of a big company, we thought there'd still be some money left, even if the company was struggling. My plan is ruined now." "Yeah. Disappointing. Wait a minute. What are you talking about?" Even after listening to my son and his wife, I couldn't understand a thing and, irritated, I raised my voice. However, my yelling didn't faze them, they continued to smirk like villains. The reason I didn't join Dad's company was because it seemed like a tough job dealing with such complicated matters. Why work up a sweat at Dad's company when I could inherit his vast fortune later? It would be smarter to just coast through an easy job, right? But to think it wouldn't go as planned. At first, I thought it'd be best to stay on your father-in-law's good side, so I was nice and made sure Sean kept in touch, even enduring that awful homemade Christmas dish. You ended that once you clearly understood that your father-in-law wasn't a strict person, right? You too, when you found out your father-in-law had let go of the company, you accepted it was just a downgrade from a sure-win life to a normal one, right? I might have given up, but you'd still expect to have about $100,000 saved up, right? Look at this bank book. There's only $30,000 in it. I guess it takes money to shut down a company? Well, we should be grateful for even this $30,000. As my son and his wife kept blabbering whatever they liked, my anger was about to explode. Yet, I clenched my teeth and pushed down the words rising in my throat. "Mother, what's up? Your face is all red." "Right, since there's no money left in this house, we don't need to deal with you anymore, right?" "That's right. I don't need a parent who ruins my plans." "Huh? It means we're cutting ties with you." "There's no money left in this house, right? There's no point in trying to please a penniless mother-in-law. It's a hassle to be asked for money or to take care of someone who doesn't have a single penny. We want to cut ties now." "I understand your thoughts. So, your inheritance is that $30,000, and that's the severance money for cutting parent-child ties, right? I can keep the rest, right?" "Yeah, that's fine. We don't need this house anyway, and we'd be troubled if you tried to push debts on us. We're satisfied with just this $30,000. Like at my husband's funeral, my son and his wife left laughing. I didn't want to give them even $30,000 if I could help it. $30,000 is a lot of money. But they will regret receiving that $30,000 later. 2 years after my husband passed away. I had some errands in town and was wandering a bit. Moving around at over 65 years old is quite challenging. Tired, I decided to rest on a park bench. I sat down with a grunt and took out the bread I bought at the supermarket for a simple lunch. As I bit into my bread, pigeons gathered around. Watching the pigeons, I felt peaceful. Indeed, they are a symbol of peace. However, this peaceful atmosphere was quickly disrupted by a familiar voice. "Isn't that you, Mother?" "Huh? It's true. Look." She's making a tired face, feeding pigeons in the park. "No, I'm not feeding the pigeons." "That's true. As usual, you don't spend much on appearances, huh? Oh, maybe you have no money to spend. We took all the money, so of course, you'd become homeless. How's the homeless life?" "As usual, My son and his wife aren't listening to me at all. Anger has long passed, and I'm already too dumbfounded to say anything. I sigh quietly and resume my lunch. Mom, why are you ignoring me? Ah, we've cut ties, so maybe it's bad to call your mom now. How about we call you Homeless Granny then? That's a good one. Homeless Granny. My son and his wife, taking advantage of my silence, say whatever they want and laugh. I've finished my bread, so it's about time to tell them the truth. You too, you've been saying homeless, homeless, but who are you talking about? You, Homeless Granny. I'm not homeless. I live over there now. What? I point to a building. My son and his wife slowly turn their gaze in the direction I'm pointing. What I pointed at appears small and distant, but is a prestigious high-rise condo. At first, I thought a luxury high-rise condo was too much, but living there, it turns out to be quite convenient. That high-rise condo has rooms adapted for the elderly, and I live there. Plus, care staff are on site 24/7, so it's reassuring in case something happens. Huh? Don't brag. A homeless granny like you couldn't possibly afford to live there, right? Well, yes. That's because my husband left that high-rise condo to me. What do you mean? My husband owned 5 high-rise condos. I started living in one of them. I own the others now, so I have rental income. That's why I'm not struggling with living expenses. If you're going to lie, at least make it a believable one. It's true. I'll show you proof. I shouldn't really show these, so just a little, okay? I take out documents related to the ownership and rental contracts of the high-rise condo from my bag and show them to my son and his wife, who were so surprised that their jaws nearly dropped. My errand today was related to this high-rise condo, and I happened to have the documents with me. They seemed doubtful, but after seeing these documents, they finally understood I was telling the truth. Where would Dad get that kind of money? You guys thought Dad's company was absorbed due to debts, but it was actually a proper sale. The high-rise condos were an investment purchase with the money from that sale. That's why there was only $30,000 in savings. I think he also had a purpose to leave an inheritance in forms other than money, but maybe he wanted to do something like work because he had to retire suddenly due to his illness, right? When my eldest son and his wife learned the truth that I actually did have a high-rise condo, they were dumbfounded. However, saying I owned 5 buildings might indeed be a bit of an exaggeration, as my son suggested it could be a lie. Constructing a single high-rise condo costs tens of millions. For 5, you'd need hundreds of millions. It's not feasible to get such an amount from selling a company, and even large corporations can't easily build 5 high-rise condos. Therefore, I am not the full owner of one building, but rather I own parts of it. When I said 5 buildings, I meant that I own units in 5 buildings, specifically 6 units. I simplified it to 5 buildings because explaining it was too cumbersome. My son and his wife mistakenly thought I owned entire buildings, but it's too much trouble to correct them, so I'll leave it as it is. Even though I exaggerated about owning 5 buildings, owning 6 units is still significant. Each unit in the high-rise condos my husband purchased costs over $500,000, which means the 6 units are worth more than $3 million in total. My husband invested most of the money he got from selling his company into these high-rise condos. It must have been enjoyable for him to make such a big purchase with the money he earned over his lifetime. If there are so many, couldn't you share one with us? Yeah, it must be hard for Mom to manage them all by herself. We can help. Upon realizing I was the owner of the high-rise condos, my son and his wife became cautious in their choice of words and spoke awkwardly. Their attitude changed completely. Of course, I cannot trust such people. There's no need for strangers we've cut ties with to worry. But no, wait. Even if we've cut ties, we are still family. That means, after Mom is gone, the high-rise condos automatically become mine, right? Right. Yes. There's no need to beg this old lady here. My son and his wife started to smirk again like villains. But I have no intention of leaving such an important inheritance from my husband to such undeserving people. Unfortunately, I won't be passing them on to you. Are you planning to write in the will that you don't want me to inherit? That's pointless. I know that a child's right to inherit can't easily be nullified. Yes. That's why I plan to dispose of the property in the end. What? I intend to transfer the high-rise condos to people my husband knew. What? I live in one of the 6 units of the high-rise condo, but the other 5 units are inhabited by my husband's acquaintances. They are all married, and each one runs their own business, so I don't think they'll move out at least until I join my husband. Therefore, I'm not worried about vacancies. These people supported me and were helped by my husband during his lifetime, so I intend to transfer the high-rise condos to them when I pass away. It's much better than leaving them to my son and his wife. Additionally, the money that's slowly accumulating from the rent of the high-rise condos, I plan to donate to my husband's cherished company. It won't be a large amount, but since I've already given $30,000 to my son and his wife, I don't want to give them a single penny more. Well, when I leave, I'll make sure nothing is left behind. That's terrible. My son, realizing I intend to leave nothing behind, seemed deflated and sat down on the ground. Although $30,000 is a significant amount, it's not something my son couldn't earn himself. Therefore, if he forsakes the high-rise condos for $30,000, regret is natural. Discussing what will happen after I'm gone while I'm still alive isn't pleasant. However, this time, I enjoyed seeing my son and his wife panic. Well, I still have things to do, so I'm leaving. Goodbye, estranged strangers. I left the park feeling light-footed after my break. My son, apparently frustrated at missing out on the high-rise condo, bought a small condominium in a fit of pique. However, due to his lack of knowledge and haste, he's struggling with vacancies, and the condominium management is running at a loss. After investing his savings and taking loans to buy the condominium, he can't keep it indefinitely and will have to let it go eventually. If he does, he'll be left with hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt. Moreover, if he tries to sell the condominium and can't find a buyer, it might be even more tragic. If he can't find a buyer, he might have to demolish the building and sell just the land. The thought of adding demolition costs to the debt is terrifying. I live comfortably in a high-rise condo designed for the elderly. The people living in my high-rise condo, who were helped by my husband, take good care of me. Living alone as an elderly person is supposed to be lonely, but I don't feel that at all. Since the weather looks nice today, I think I'll go to the park again.